But you had roots here?
Yes. So I'm from, well, I live in North Carolina, but I'm actually from Colorado.
Okay. So you grew up in a small town. I understand we have that in common?
So yes, when I was younger, I lived in Carbondale, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And I actually grew up and spent some time in Mancos, Colorado, which is close to Cortez.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and I lived in Rifle as well.
Oh, did you? Okay. Great. Great. I understand you just took a vacation around there recently.
I did. It was fun.
Okay.
We went to Rifle Falls and hiked, and
Great.
yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about some of the things that we've both been doing, and I wanted to go ahead and answer some questions you might have had about what I was looking at with the land use code for Cortez.
Sure. So tell me about what kinds of initiatives you're hoping to garner with this project.
Okay, so the land use code initiative in Cortez, I first became aware of back in 2019 and 2020, and that code was actually rejected by the city council and by the citizens at large. This go around, what they've done is they've actually had a very good consultant, I say, process for the consulting that they're doing. And my concerns mainly laid around the data that we have for housing. The housing data that they showed actually derives from jobs, and for people who don't understand, you can't buy a house without a job. You have to have a job. And so jobs drive housing. And when you have competition for housing, it usually becomes apparent that there is a pay disparity. And so that's what we were seeing here in Cortez. We had a little bit of a discussion at one time about what numbers we should use when we were looking at it before the city came back with their housing. And so what I looked at was the Colorado demographics, which happened to show that there are roughly 12,800 jobs, and I'm looking at my laptop screen so I get this straight. And local government, it shows having 2,094 jobs. And the problem that I've had is that the city's housing information they put out shows a different number. And it shows 9% of total jobs instead of 18%. So that's where my concern came from.
So what is your concern with that large of a discrepancy?
So we're looking at a 50% discrepancy. Instead of 18%, they're quoting 9%. And so I haven't had a chance to actually look at their data yet. So my largest issue is that we have transparency into the process. We need transparency into how the sausage is made. And that's the best way to basically put it. And because when you're showing nice, pretty graphs that people can understand, they call it infographics. And that's really good. It's a great way to technically communicate, or to communicate technical information to non-technical people. However, if you don't have the actual right numbers, the decision makers, who are the people of Cortez and the people of Montezuma County, can actually make decisions that are based on faulty data. And so that's my concern. And so I've actually put a request to put that on the public record, and I'll probably be speaking in front of Cortez in the upcoming dates in front of their city council for 3 minutes at a shot.
Okay, so with the, sorry, I'm trying to think. With the concerns you have, what are the overall concerns based on all the information that you've gathered for this county and what this means for the people of the county?
Okay, well, let me switch to the screen so you can take a look here. And what we're looking at is that we have the total numbers that are according to, this is Colorado demographics. This is where I got this information from. So we have a large amount of government jobs. We have the second highest category that the data from Colorado demographics shows is health services, followed by retail trade. Now, we're generating a lot of economic growth here with agriculture, and we used to have a lot more mining 6 or 7 years ago than we do now. My concern was that a lot of the money we've had that we spend in the services of the basic core of government is keeping you safe, right? So we're looking at things that are critical infrastructure like law enforcement or firefighters, people who fight wildland fires, people who go running towards the sound of trouble instead of running away from it when there's trouble.
Oh, okay.
And so the problem I've seen for the past 10 years is that we've had a lot of people who've had to leave, and there's one case study I could think of that actually has a gentleman who was a deputy here, and his first name was Travis, and as far as I understand, he moved to Grand Junction, where he still lives, because he just couldn't provide housing for his family for the style that he wanted to have his growing family grow well in Cortez. So I thought about that for several years, and so that's kind of driving my interest
So it's
in
not,
this.
it's becoming less affordable. That's the
Correct.
natural consequence of this.
Correct. And so
the people of Cortez are suffering.
correct. Correct. And so when you have a pay disparity, what we saw with the housing numbers, if the job data is incorrect, if the wages that they're showing for government at $51,000 per year is correct, then the second highest category that they're showing is $33,000. So you're looking at almost a $20,000 difference. And so when you're looking at a qualified person to actually buy a home, you want the person with the highest income with the most stable job. That happens to be local government right now, according to the data from Colorado Demographics. So if that's what we're going by, then we need to look at things outside the box. And I've looked at deed restriction, and that's a very controversial topic, and I don't know what you've heard about it, but I'd like to go ahead and
Sure, yeah, share away.
so deed restriction means that you're selling the home under specific restrictions for the buyer. The buyer buys the home, and typically the intent is to keep that home within a certain population's reach. So that would mean in this instance, and poor Travis, I haven't even talked to him about this, but that would mean that Travis in this case would be able to buy a house at say 75 to 85% of the normal value because somebody else who was a firefighter or law enforcement had already purchased that home. And if we're starting this, it's brand new. And so launching that is very delicate. And that's what I would like to see a lot of focus on within the city council and also within the county and the board of county commissioners.
Great. So if you could sum it all up, what would your message to the city council be?
Okay, so what I would say is that the people of Cortez and the people of Montezuma County basically had a very poor experience 3 years ago. And there was a lot of controversy about it, and I'd like to avoid that right now. I think there's a place for land use code. I also think that there's a place for understanding where our population comes from and why they're here in Cortez. It's not the same as Aspen or Carbondale, where you're from. It's not the same as Durango or even Grand Junction. So to understand how we want to keep the services here, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and look at how do we basically incentivize people by giving them an opportunity to own homes versus just have housing, which is rental. And anybody who's rented scooters or bikes, those little e-bikes and things like that, well, you see the e-bikes and the scooters sitting in the street. People tend to trash what they rent. We want people to really, really tie closely in this community, especially the people who are our first responders.
Sure. So overall, just the people that live here, them being able to have something they can invest in, something they can personally vest themselves, give their heart and soul, basically building some roots versus shallow tethers.
Absolutely.
We should say. Yeah.
Absolutely. As people have children and their children start growing up, they really look at job opportunities elsewhere based on how well their family will adjust to that.
Cool.
And so if they actually have a home here, if their kids are in school, these people are more likely, and there's plenty of studies on this, people are more probable to stay where they are when they have a happy home life and they have a stable home where they're growing their equity. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but homes are actually the largest generator of generational wealth for the American people. It's very different than other countries.
Which is key for mental health outcomes and just overall functioning and resilience for populations. So I think that's a really good cause that you're fighting for.
Well, thank you very much. Speaking of mental health, we should talk about your initiatives and what you're looking at with trauma and counseling and things you're looking at launching.
Sure. Can we pause it for a second?
Absolutely.
Is this a good time to bring in Shannon and get her prepped? She's supposed to...
Well, we probably should do another 10 minutes or so.
Okay, no, that's fine. We can go ahead and start, and then
10:24 now. We have 20 minutes left until. So I figured we do a small segment for you, and then we take a break and we recap and try to take a look and then go.
So, and when I'm talking, am I supposed to be making eye contact into this?
The main one, if you want.
Or this one. So when you're talking to me and I'm looking over here.
Can you switch sides?
Yeah.
Since you're
mostly talking into this side? Okay.
Or do you want me to should we switch places, or no? This is fine.
That sounds much better.
Okay. Good deal.
Perfect. Okay.
Well, because when you talk like this, and she had it over here, so
It was
to move it where she's talking.
Projecting.
It was competing.
But
Yeah.
no, you're good.
All right.
Okay.
So we're talking about Four Corners Healing LLC.
Yes.
And I'd love to go ahead and look at how you got the name for that, because obviously we're in the Four Corners region here in Cortez.
Yes. So the Four Corners area has always been a special place for me. I remember when I was little, growing up, and going to the landmark where you put,
all for your
yes.
Yeah,
And I just remember thinking, what a cool concept and idea, and the fact that you can be in 4 places at once. And it got me thinking about kind of the 4 different quadrants of ourselves as humans. Like, so the 4 corners of the human being is body, soul, mind, and spirit. And there's
Okay.
something really sexy about that
Yeah.
in a very benign way. Okay, let me put it that way. So I think that it, just taking something that's very real, like the 4 corners area, and then looking at that from a humanistic perspective and what that means for the soul of the person. I believe that mental health is not just something that is a one and done, but it's something that it's pervasive in your life. You have to be able to be a healthy person with the way that you interact with yourself. So the relationship with the self, the relationship with other selves. When I say other selves, I mean the people around you, your family, your community, your closest relationships. Those are all things that kind of, they're the linchpin for the body, soul, mind, and spirit. And as I got the vision for what I wanted to do, especially with trauma healing here, I felt like it would be a really cool way to bring this message to people about the whole body, mind, soul, every aspect of healing.
That's wonderful. Can you give me a little bit of background on the healing practices, or what happens when somebody goes to Rachel Marshall and they talk about having some problems in their lives that you're helping them with?
Sure. So I created a trauma survivors workshop, and the reason I did that was because I've been a clinician for many, many years, and as a professional, what I realized is I had some of my own issues, trauma issues, things that happened to me throughout my lifetime that I never really dealt with. And what I found was that in my day-to-day practice, I was really, really suffering inside and hurting. And I felt like as a professional, I didn't, have the time to, let me just sit down with someone for 3.5 years and open up every little facet of my life and look in all the nooks and crannies and heal all of the trauma. I didn't really have time for that. I was in a very stressful job as a therapist, and I just felt like all kinds of different things that people would say or do would trigger me, but I had nowhere to really safely work through that. And so there was a woman that came into my life at the time who showed me how. I went to her workshop. She showed me how to really deal with some of the trauma and do it in a way where I was able to step away from the community, get really down to the basics, kind of peel away all of the layers. And what I learned from that workshop experience was that healing can happen way more quickly than we think if we just take time to do it. Okay, so I think when I created this workshop, it was more to keep in mind people like me who are professionals who maybe they've been through a lot and maybe their job is triggering them, but they don't have time to spend years and years healing this in therapy. Because it really, when it comes down to it, if you've got a skilled set of hands and you've got a desire to change, all you need is somebody to lead you. And that's really what happened with me, and it was this amazing transformative experience. And through that, I was able to become the clinician that I am today. So before that, I was probably an average clinician, right? But once I did this work, once I attended to my own body, soul, mind, and spirit, once I really cut loose the chains of all of the looping thoughts and the things that we can get caught up in as humans, and I was able to just put some of those to rest and adopt a new way of living, it was mind-blowing. It was life-changing. And so that's when I decided I need to be able to hone in all of the clinical work I've ever done personally and professionally, kind of whittle it down to the basics, and then offer something to people to where they can go away, have this experience, it can change their life, and then they can get back to living, which is what people want to do. They don't want to sit there in the muck and the mire and be suffering.
That makes perfect
with
sense.
With the things that really hurt them on a daily basis. And so it's about really empowering people, giving them the tools that they need, but also helping them to realize it's not Mount Everest. It can be overcome. All you need is a simple set of hands, a willing heart, and somebody that can guide you. And so that's what the crux of my Survivors Workshop is, and what I'm hoping to bring to everybody. And I'm so excited about bringing it to a place that's kind of off the beaten path. That's not, in the middle of the city, but a place where people can go away, get rejuvenated, but also it can put some places like this on the map and help people that are in places like this to feel like, hey, I've got resources right here in my backyard that maybe couldn't happen 10 years ago, but now there's this really cool workshop where I can get help too. And it doesn't have to be something for the majorly populated areas, but it's something that everybody can come in contact with.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And I know that Cortez has had several different mental health initiatives in the past, and I'm wondering if they will start looking towards the trends of what's happening. It's hard. I think a lot of the struggle is actually education, for people to know what counseling means, or for people to understand that there's not a stigma with it. That it's actually something that's almost important. Like, some people call segments of it executive coaching, other people call it different names, and then there's the psychiatry where they're prescribing drugs for certain things. I guess maybe that is possibly too broad, but I'm just a layman looking at it from the outside.
Sure. And so what scientists have learned in the last 20 years is about the neuroplasticity of the brain, okay? And the important thing with understanding that, because we didn't know that for years, we did psychology, we didn't understand that whatever fires together wires together neurologically.
Okay.
So you can actually take, people's self-defeating, looping thoughts, the things that they are just stuck in, and you can actually reroute those things in their brain, and you can replace those negative thought patterns with something more positive. Eventually, if you continue to walk down that path neurologically, the brain will actually, the neurology will change. You will change the neuronal pathways of your brain, okay? So these hijacks that scientists have come up with, and I call them hijacks because basically, if I'm doing my EMDR, which, we can talk about what EMDR is at some point, and my Survivors Workshop, and these other modalities that really kind of hack into how do you change the neuronal pathways of the brain, magic happens, okay? So I can take somebody who maybe had a lifelong phobia, I can clear that in one session.
That's
okay,
amazing.
We're talking about people who are deathly afraid of, bugs, shots, airplanes, things like that. So we're talking about the new brain science is phenomenal and effective if exerted correctly. Okay, so the cool thing about somebody like me or Shannon, who we're going to meet,
that's right,
is you get some skilled practitioners in there, and you get a willing spirit, and change happens.
That's wonderful, and it sounds like it's almost, when you use terms like rejuvenate, I think about plasticity, and I'm on an undergrad psychology basis, right?
You're a layman.
Right, but I have children, and you have teen children that are very close to the same age as mine, and so I've watched them grow, and I think every parent out there, we may understand certain intrinsic truths, that the brains are plastic as your children, but when I'm talking to you, you're telling me that there's a way that people have found, and they've actually shown this in science, to actually be able to rejuvenate or rewire. Okay, so you can rewire your brain. You can enhance the plasticity of your brain, which makes it actually able to go ahead and take this new input and to actually clear up a lot of things, including trauma. Is that what I'm looking at?
That is correct. So if you look at your brain like it is a hiking trail, okay, and in Colorado we have lots of hiking trails. So basically, neurologically, all of our neuronal pathways in our brain are like little mini hiking trails, okay? So when Bruce Perry, who did all of this work, he wrote a book called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. I do not recommend that book. It's really devastating, but it talks about the clinical evidence behind why this works, okay? But if you think about a hiking trail and you think about how, there are two different ways to form a hiking trail, okay? One way is you walk down the same path over and over again, and hundreds and thousands of people do that until stuff stops growing, okay?
Okay.
So that's one way. The other way is you can take a bulldozer, you can unearth all of the stuff you don't want there, you can make it look pretty, and then you can move along.
Okay.
Right, with some maintenance, okay? So what we found out is that through weekly therapy for 3.5 years, you can do the old school method. Okay.
Okay.
So the old school method is you meet with someone once a week, you talk about the issues, you slowly take a shovel and you deal with the trauma.
That's the bulldozer approach,
That
right?
is no.
Or-
That is the old school approach.
Oh.
The new wave, okay, the new science is the understanding that we don't have to do that. Why do that? We don't have
Okay.
to do that. So what we do through the Survivors Workshop, through evidence-based modalities, through the modalities like EMDR, is we get in there and we poke the center of the trauma bear, where
Oh.
all of those self-defeating thought processes were happening and formed way back when.
That's the
Ages
plasticity.
0 to 4. Sometimes we have early childhood trauma. All of that, what we do is we poke the center of that bear. We poke, and then all of a sudden it all starts to dissolve. Okay, so
Really?
we get into the depth of where the thoughts and the experiences were formed, the beginnings of those neuronal pathways, and we're able to affect change in a very powerful way.
Well, that's
Okay?
wonderful.
So, with the work that I do, the outcomes are exponentially, they're hastened in such a way that people can really, if they focus, if they're willing to do the work. And I always tell people, I'm only willing to work as a clinician as hard as you do.
That's
Okay.
a great thing.
I will not do this. See this?
Yeah.
I don't do that with people. That
Yeah.
means that, you don't just get to sit there and do nothing, but with a skilled set of hands and with a willing heart, change can happen. And it can happen way more quickly than people even understand. And then you can go on to live a good life, right?
Wonderful.
People don't want to be in therapy for years. Who wants to do that? Who wants to sit there for 3.5 years every week, slowly, undoing a hiking trail and starting a new hiking trail?
Mm.
Who
It gets
wants
the
to
job
do that?
done.
It gets the job done.
But-
And people that have busy lives, who maybe they don't have the desire, and I know I certainly felt this way. I told my therapist, I don't want to go to, and this was as a therapist, okay? I went to my therapist and I said, I don't really want to unpack all of this stuff because I don't want to have my guts spilled out all over the place while I'm trying to work and take care of my kids and do my family stuff and keep myself together. So people are afraid. I was afraid. I was like, there is stuff I do not want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to deal with it. And so he was like, no, there's a new way. You don't have to do this forever. It doesn't have to be years of your life. I trusted the process. I did it. And my life was forever changed.
That's
And
wonderful.
it can happen for anybody who wants it, which is awesome. It doesn't matter how bad you think your case is. There's a solution.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, and I've seen some pretty intense things over the years. And people, telling me, Rachel, but you have no idea about my story.
Mm-hmm.
I say, well, give me a try. Because I've heard just about everything, and if I haven't, we'll figure it out. So,
It's funny you should mention that because I, as a veteran and with a focus towards first responders, I've always looked at those communities for having a lot of trauma. But the reality is that there are a lot of things that happen that people don't really realize are traumatic until they've actually gone through sessions with a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, then they understand that they have either a long road ahead of them or else they can try something that's actually based in science, which may actually be able to accelerate that, which is what you're looking at. Is that correct?
that is correct. And the cool thing is, the way that I've designed the Survivors Workshop is that wherever you come from, wherever your home community is, I make sure that there is a therapist there waiting for you on the other side of this.
Okay, so it's a partnership.
Yes, so there is a partnership. So whatever work you do with me and Shannon, you'll have somebody in your identified area to go to for follow-up, for accountability, for encouragement. They'll actually be speaking with me as
Okay.
long as you're comfortable with that. And
Oh,
so I'm
wow.
building a relationship with that therapist, and that ensures people's long-term success, okay? Because what we don't want is for people to have a mountaintop experience, go home, not have the resources they need, and then find themselves back in those old thinking patterns. We really want to help people, have a fresh lease on life and get out there and be able to just live.
I think that's really important, especially in a rural area, because trying to go and get care of any type takes a commitment. And so that is wonderful that you're actually looking at doing this and launching it, especially focused in Colorado on the Western Slope, because that brings the opportunity to a lot of people who wouldn't normally have that. And if this works like you're expecting, then you're looking at people being able to come in and accelerate their healing, which we know we have a mental illness problem.
Oh,
in
it's a crisis, and ever since
yes.
COVID, it's just rampant. I mean, there are people that were isolated for years. There are people that lost loved ones. There are people that just got very depressed, lost hope. So we are on the backside of a very intense mental health crisis, and I say backside because I do think there's a lot of hope. I do think that it's an uphill backside. We have a lot of work to do as clinicians, and this offering is one way to help more people.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and especially in places like this, because they can come, right?
Yeah.
People in this rural area, they might be able to take 3 or 4 days off, come get the help they need. They don't have to drive weekly for hours to see a therapist. That's another thing that can be a challenge for people that live out far away from resources, right? So it's a way to just get in there, get them what they need, and get them out the door, right? Because that's what we want.
That's perfect. And with places like small ski towns like Telluride, or when we're looking at Vail or Winter Park, where I understand there are people who come all the time for specific sports, this would be something that if they could fit it into their time off of their very busy schedule, like a CEO or somebody who's at that level, the CXO is what the term is, they could actually fit that into a family vacation or something if they had the time to actually focus on it. And that makes it different.
And a great thing that Shannon and I are doing, and I can't wait till everybody meets
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
The awesome thing about what we're doing is each time we do one of these workshops, it'll have a little bit different of a clinical focus. So we'll try to pair people according to what their needs are. So we're going to kind of unveil the focus of our first survivors workshop and who we think a good population would be. But if people hear what we have to offer and they're like, well, that might not quite fit me this time, just hang on, because when we find out the kinds of issues that people have, we set up our future schedule around people that maybe have similar stories, similar backgrounds, if we think there would be a good chemistry, and then we create that survivors workshop around that thematic area. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a really, really exciting thing, because the clinical backdrop of what we do can be applied to many different areas. Okay, so if somebody has an issue, maybe some of the people I work with, they lost a child, or they lost a spouse, or they went through something as a child that maybe they feel very isolated with and maybe not comfortable sharing. Those are things we take into consideration as we're building the chemistry of the group, so that the power of the group can also propel people's progress forward and their healing. And then you don't feel like you're so alone, because I promise you there is somebody out there that's been through something similar, but when you're in the middle of it, you don't always feel like that. You feel kind of like an island.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, and I'd love to understand more about the group dynamic, and we'll be talking to Shannon in just a little bit.
Yes.
It looks like we'll take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we'll go ahead and talk to Shannon and maybe get into a little more specifics about your Trauma Survivors Workshop.
Great.
All right.
Does Shannon know how to set up a Zoom, or do you want to try like?
You want to give her a call?
Yeah,
Let's
let's call her. She does a lot of online stuff, so
Let me sticking out on this side.
let me call her. She's probably
Oh
waiting.
no, it's a crack in the screen. Perfect. I thought it was in my head.
You thought your head was
Yeah, I
cracked?
thought my head was cracked. Here we
Humpty
go.
Dumpty.
Yeah.
Okay, let me grab my phone.
So my only suggestion would be that we talk more and we say Trauma Survivors Workshop instead of Survivors Workshop.
Okay.
And so, but I think referring to it as either is perfectly fine.
Okay.
And then I think that went great.
Good.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I mean, some
I
of
love
these
the
concepts
training.
are really hard to explain, so
Right.
but I
Thank
did
you.
my best.
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
did the best I could.
If she wants to send that.
I keep on calling you Jedediah. Do people do that a lot?
What's his name?
Jedekiah.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was Jedediah because
Yeah.
you called him to that.
It's wired in my brain. I'm gonna have her work on me.
Yeah, I got to
Yeah,
rewire
I
you.
mean, it's my saving grace. Like, I got this weird treat from my mother. When I hear a jingle or a meme, I'll break into song.
Let's
Cool.
Hello.
So you can tell with girls.
Yeah.
like
Hey.
Jolene
We're here, and we just did a little warm up. We were going to do a little warm up with you, but we wanted to see if we could get you streamed in first.
That's great.
And then do a little practice stuff. And then when you're comfortable, then we could so we have Jedediah here. He is the production person, and we're at his studio. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on speaker, and then we'll figure out how we're going to do this. So hold on 1 second, okay? Thanks.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
So, are you fairly familiar with Zoom calls?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
do you
I
want
use
to?
Zoom all the time.
Do you want to set one up and send me a link? And what I'll have is you basically on screen, picture in picture. Are you both going to be in the picture, or
That's a
is it
good
just gonna be
question.
you and Shannon?
He'll probably just be Shannon and I, and his voice will be asking questions, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to just
Because
kind of?
what I'll do is the split screen.
Okay.
I'll have her on one side, you on the other, and then
So if you're looking at me, then you'll be looking at her, right? Is that the split screen recording?
So
or-
then what I would need
Yeah.
is, I would need, I think, at least a couple of emails to do the split screen.
So an email address?
Do you want me to give you the email?
Yes.
Okay, is Jedediah Coy.
Can you spell that
Okay,
for her?
I'm going to spell this
Yeah.
for you. It's
Okay.
J as in Juliet, E as in Echo, D as in Delta, E as in Echo, K as in Kilo, I as in India, A as in Alpha, H as in Hotel, C as in Charlie, O as in Oscar, Y as in Yankee, @gmail.com.
Okay.
So I
And
think, oh, go
Is
ahead.
there another one? I could go ahead and just send this, and we could see if just with one email.
Yeah, he's going to do the
we can
whole
do a
thing.
split screen.
Well, he's going to do the whole thing.
yeah, you don't have to worry about anything like a split screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to do it on his end.
All right. I just sent it to you. Let me know if you got it.
So I'm so excited, Shannon. Let me catch you up real quick. We talked about the Survivors Workshop. I was mentioning that you may want to use the term Trauma Survivors Workshop.
Okay.
And then also, Rachel had a couple great analogies that I'd love to capitalize on. One was something about a trail, a hiking trail.
Yeah, so I was talking about the neuroplasticity of the brain, and what I did, which is different than what we're going to do, Shannon, is I kind of did the background scientifically to why these kinds of therapies work, like EMDR, short-term trauma-focused therapies, or the Trauma Survivors Workshop, and just went into the work of Bruce Perry and how you rewire neuronal pathways, and how you, and I did use the analogy of hiking trails and different things like that. So I tried to cover the clinical and scientific background so that when you and I are talking about the actual Trauma Survivors Workshop, we can just dive right into the new clinical focus that we have. And I know that what we talked about was kind of garnering and marketing this one in a way that reaches women who have been in relationships with narcissists, and that's kind of going to be the first focus of ours, right? Yeah, so I was hoping, and you did a great job explaining the potential, the people that might be good candidates for this, and all the stuff that we talked about the other day. So I was hoping you could kind of share
Remember what I said?
Yes, and it's okay. Actually, we just did this big practice thing, and it was very natural. It was way more natural than I thought it was going to be, and we're just going to let you talk, and we will cut and slice and paste, so you don't need to worry about saying stupid stuff or anything like that. We're gonna take anything bad out.
Okay. Did you guys get my email? My Zoom invite?
Did you get it?
Nope. Still waiting.
All right, so can you do me a favor? Can you actually text it to this number? Because when you guys are on speaker, I have to be honest, it's muffled for me because I'm hard of hearing, and
Okay.
I don't know if I got it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and JED.
You can just photograph that picture.
Okay.
That card.
That's not a bad idea.
So let me give you my phone number, or do you have it?
Hang on just a second. I'm just going to send it to this one right now, and then I will. I'll send you a copy of the card also. Okay, and there's the email, and then let me take a picture of this.
And would it be easier
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
had.
just
So let me see
this-
why you didn't get it.
Because she can record the Zoom as a split screen. Like I wouldn't have to do anything, and you guys could just record your conversation.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. And that would
Okay,
work
I'm gonna
out
send it to you
sound
guys
wise?
really
I mean,
quick.
I'm sure we can figure it out with this system, but I'm just saying that might be simpler.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so yeah,
I wanted
Shannon,
to-
did you hear that?
But
Maybe.
I wanted to make sure that,
No,
that we
I
had
didn't hear anything.
good
I gotta
quality.
put the phone down so I can actually send you guys an invite.
Let me go ahead and let me send you the card real quick. Well, what I was thinking was I wanted to make sure that we got good video capture here. Do you want to still capture the video at the same time for
Yeah,
her?
I mean, we can still.
So we still get the pro quality here, right?
yeah, we can still figure it out. Here,
Okay.
But
then the split screen, because if she records it, I'm not sure the quality once Zoom gets a hold of the video, because they tend to mess with it a little bit. So I was hoping that we would get this here, and then when you're recording it, you get both. I guess is that the way?
yeah, we'll try to figure it out.
Okay. Can you try to see if you sent that?
Yeah, I'm gonna send another. I just decided to send another one just
Okay.
to make sure. 'Cause I think I was missing the wires. I was missing something. But anyway, I just sent it. I'm gonna go get a quick drink of water while you guys are
Okay, great.
getting settled in, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Do we need to do anything with the audio, or are you okay? You need to be able to hear her, correct?
Yeah.
So do you want to try to wire this through behind your nice hair? And then we'll make sure it hangs properly, and once I have this kind of attached back here, I don't know, you want to,
Yeah, just.
well, I'm going to do it underneath your hair.
Yeah,
there we
let's
go.
do it underneath my hair. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So I wanted to make sure you had two in there, just because that way you'll be able to hear if one drops out. You
Sure.
don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to put this over here. There you go. There's the other one.
Awesome, thank you.
And then I'm gonna hook this just on the back of your dress right here so it doesn't hang.
Okay.
And then I'll let you do whatever you do. There we go. And then I guess I just need to have the audio, the extension. Do you have the extension cord? Oh, it's right here. You trust me to hook it up?
Okay. Did you guys get it?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we received it.
Okay. I just need you guys because I need you guys to come into the waiting area because I don't have a way to admit you guys.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna set this right here. It's gonna feel a little bit of drag. How's that feel?
Good.
And then it's right underneath. Here you go, Jake. I'm just gonna try to throw it under there. Oops. So that way you can hear Shannon. I won't be able to hear her.
Hey there.
Hi.
Hey.
Let's see. Oh,
I can't see
That,
anything without
that
my
actually
ring
might work pretty good.
Which
Can
one?
she put an earpiece from her phone in her ear?
can you put an earpiece from your phone?
No, not her.
Oh,
Rachel, can you, Rachel?
Oh,
I still gotta see if.
so if I did this, hold on.
Well, you
This
need
is the longest cord in the history of cords.
sorry.
No, it's okay. So if I do, oh wait,
You need a dongle.
I don't have a dongle.
Do you want to do it on my phone? I have a spare phone for that.
Okay, I'm gonna call you back on Charles's phone because we need to hook me up to some headphones.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right.
hold on.
Well, that's perfect. That's great because then you get the sound off a
Okay,
separate
so
source.
here, let me give you her.
Okay, I'll call her.
720-234-4662.
Okay, let me go ahead and call her real quick. Wow, you two are like movie stars. Hi there. Okay, so I'm going to hook her up to my phone, and I have to put a do not disturb on it real quick. That way I don't keep getting calls or something like that. It's disruptive. So hang on just a minute. Let me make sure that this is do not disturb is on. Notifications. And then I'm going to hook you in. Focus. Do not disturb. Right there.
So now do you want me to look at this one since
Let me go ahead and
No,
focus
you're
in.
gonna be looking at
look
this
at that one? Okay.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and check the sound check right now. How's that sound?
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's in my ear.
Okay. So you guys can hear each other.
Can you hear me, honey?
Let me turn her audio.
Okay, so she's hearing an echo now between the phone and the screen.
Oh, tell her to mute the screen.
Can you mute the screen, honey?
It should.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
All right.
So I have to look this way. It's going to be weird because you're over here, but I have to look over here because this is where the camera is. So I apologize if I'm not looking at you when we're talking.
And I can still ask questions if you want me to. Is that
Yes,
what you want me to do?
and I want you to ask the questions, and maybe you can direct them to Shannon or me or both, or we can, you know.
Okay, so when I'm over here, you can talk towards me.
I'm
Right.
echoing, honey? Interesting. I wonder why I'm echoing.
Well, there's still probably a pickup. Do we have the Zoom pickup here? Is that what's happening?
I don't have any of her audio.
So because we have the Zoom and the phone going in on our side, she thinks that maybe that's causing the echo. Could we?
Right.
could
Can
we
she
not-
mute? Can she mute the Zoom on her side?
She already muted it on her side, I believe.
Well,
It's because it's on our side that
oh,
it's not muted.
have her lower her sound volume on her laptop. That'll probably do the trick.
Can you lower the sound on your laptop
Or mute your laptop.
or mute it?
So this will be the only sound she hears is this.
Okay.
That's good?
Okay.
Excellent. You two are fantastic.
Well, thank you.
I feel like I'm working with professionals. Oh, I am. I'm joking. of
Well, we
course.
are professionals, just
I
different
know.
kinds of professionals.
Right, right. So, yeah. So we were talking about the trails and everything. Should we continue our discussion like we pick up after a break, and then we'll go ahead and cut?
Well,
Shannon
yeah.
in?
Let's make an introduction of Shannon.
Okay.
Because I said in the little feeder, I was like, everybody's going to
Oh,
meet
I'm
Shannon
sorry. Let me go ahead and
shortly, and we're going to go into the specific focus of our survivors workshop that we're doing coming
So,
up.
what's her name? The full name?
Shannon Hicks, and she is a licensed professional counselor, and she has a private practice in Greenville. Why do I want to say Greenwich? Greenwich Village. In
Greenwood
Lone Tree.
Village.
In Lone Tree. And how long have you been a therapist? Okay,
Well,
so
I don't know. Are you guys just doing pre-stuff? 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have any of her audio yet.
oh, you don't.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
whatever you're hearing, whatever I'm hearing, you're obviously not hearing.
No.
Okay, yeah, we're doing pre-stuff, so go ahead and do what you need to
Okay.
do.
So yeah, then we might have to actually have her turn on her microphone so she can take the. What'll happen is she'll unmute her laptop but keep the sound volume turned down. Does that make sense?
Unmute the laptop, but keep the volume down. I think she did that. You have your laptop just the volume down, right? Not muted.
But I asked her to mute it.
Okay. The only thing that's coming through is through her phone right now.
Okay.
Her laptop is muted.
Okay, so let's unmute the laptop.
Sorry, I keep forgetting that nobody else can hear you but me.
That's all right. We're gonna unmute the laptop and do a sound check. How's that sound?
Okay. So can you unmute the laptop so we can do a sound check?
Just remember to keep the volume turned down.
I don't have any volume coming through at the moment.
Okay. Well, she should probably, as soon as she unmutes, it'll probably come up.
So let me.
Has she already unmuted it? Okay, she's nodding. Okay.
Loudspeaker.
So Zoom is
unmuting the
laptop. Because there's two. You can hear it? You can hear it?
Okay, now say something.
Sound check.
Hello? Hello, sound check. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we
Got it?
got 2 thumbs up. Loud and clear.
Yay, we're working.
Excellent. So
Awesome.
I'm going to sit here, so it's going to look like you're talking to her.
Yeah, so she's been in private practice since 2007, so I'm doing the math. That is 15 years. Actually, 16 years. And she's
That's since I've been licensed. I've been licensed since.
she's been licensed, yeah, so that's different because we all worked long before we were licensed, right?
Yeah, so basically almost,
Couple hours.
yeah, so almost 20
Okay,
years.
15
Almost 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe Shannon, you can talk a little bit, maybe Charles, you can ask, but just about some of her own, you don't have to get into detailed life experiences, but I talk a little bit about how I, as a therapist, I had my own work I had to go back and do because I realized doing this clinical work really triggered me. To go back and do my own work and maybe talk about just a little bit from your own life, like what inspired you.
Well, wait a second. We're still doing a sound check. We're still hearing an echo on this side.
Okay, that's fine. Can I just keep going through with her what I need to go through? Do I need to be quiet?
I'm wondering if she has a Bluetooth headphone or another
Why?
something that she could use to hear only the phone, because I think the phone she's using speaker right now, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the speaker is echoing with Zoom for some reason. Is that
Okay, I just took speaker off. Can you hear
If
me?
you could see what I've got. I've got this little earbud. Could you do something like that? So it's not. Do you have
I
the
can try to
ability
see. If,
I wonder if
let me go see if I have one real quick.
just
Okay.
turn our audio off.
and use the audio from the.
Well, then it didn't set a distance.
The only
Right.
problem is that nobody will be able to hear her, so then when he's interviewing, he won't hear the answers to her questions, and I guess that does matter to a certain extent, right?
Oh, she's having. Okay.
No
No worries. Where those gyro stabilizers are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This just so you guys know, this is why I didn't want to do it myself, because he has all the best.
No, this is fine. I'm so glad you're doing this
Yeah,
for us.
this
We
is-
could never do this on our own.
Yeah, I
Are you
was.
kidding me?
Yeah, so when I last did something like this, I actually had I had access to an entire journalism department in San Diego for the college.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to use all the fun toys, but not anything close to what he has now. This was like 8 years ago.
Just humble beginning. You know, it's funny when you do like live streams, put the parade of lights as well.
Oh, nice.
And people will find something to complain about. I mean, it's,
No matter what.
It's like the Macy's Day Parade, but on budget, you know. And
That's so funny.
it's,
Oh,
it's
I just noticed my hair.
Probably 8 years too.
What, honey?
Are you doing your hair?
No, I just noticed my hair's sticking up.
I know. Yeah,
Looks good from
exactly.
here.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
So we have the audio challenge, but I think if we actually can get her to wear an earpiece,
Okay. Could you get an earpiece? Do you have one, honey?
I think
Yeah, let me
we
go
could
see if
actually
I have
get her
one.
a
Okay.
speakerphone.
Oh, look at the doggy.
And then once we have that taken care of, then I might need to borrow some type of an earpiece from you to hear the conversation. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. The right, I could lick it. I could lick it. I'm teasing you.
It'll
It's
get hot.
It's okay. Whatever you think. I'm not worried about catching ear
I
mites.
do clean my ears, but you know.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't have any ear infections or anything like that, so.
I do have wax on mine too, so.
Well,
Okay,
I
I'm
was the
in.
Military. I'll
Okay,
handle
she's
it.
in. She's got it plugged up.
Oh,
in her
that's
ear.
wonderful. Okay, so we don't hear any echoes at this point, right? So we're clear?
They can just talk to each other real quick.
Okay, yeah, just have a conversation. I'm so sorry to
Okay,
interrupt you.
so
Continue.
no, so what I was going to say is maybe incorporate a personal share, because I think that always brings people in,
Right.
right? Just about maybe a trauma that, you know,
Okay, and do you want to keep
or the
on this
idea
mic?
of
Do you
working
wanna
through
keep recording
trauma,
on this mic also? Okay.
If you
And
want your voice on there,
Yeah.
stuff that you've
Yeah.
been through,
So,
and kind of relating it to what people might need.
Okay.
So, yeah.
okay. Thank you. I have a little bit of a delay,
Jim.
but aside from that, I should be okay.
Okay.
So I'll poke my head in so you know who you're
Do you want me
talking
to start talking now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's right there, right? There we go. That's me.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm gonna basically do is I'm gonna launch back. I have a bunch of, just to give you a little bit of a brief on how I do things. I have these cards
Okay.
right here. So if there's something you think of, you can go ahead and scribble something real quick.
Okay.
And then I'll try to cover it. But feel free to break in. I usually try to take a breath before I answer a question.
Okay.
That seems to work okay for me. And if you feel like you answered something but you didn't like the answer you gave, just pause for a second, give it like 1,001, 1,002, and then restate.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we'll edit that. That gives us a
Okay.
nice little space. Okay, she can't hear now.
You can't hear?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear anything.
I can hear you, but you can't hear me. She can't hear me. Did we?
Did you turn?
Did we
Okay,
cut
so now I'm back on my phone again. You guys, I was through here and now I'm back on my phone.
It didn't. Okay. So she's back on her phone. You can't hear her, can you?
Here.
I hear her, but I have a small delay.
Okay. So.
Yeah, there's going to be
Yeah.
almost a second and a half delay for you.
Okay.
Right.
So now it got hung up. Can you call again?
Yeah. Do you have my phone number on there? It'll do a do not disturb. It must have basically disconnected somehow. Let me go ahead and call you back. There we go. We'll try to do that again. So the phone hung up. That's why you couldn't hear anything. Sorry.
Hello?
Hello. Is it through the earbud now?
It's not coming through my headphones. It's only coming through the phone.
Okay. So the Bluetooth is on. Can you troubleshoot here? Can you troubleshoot with her?
What? No, I've got it right here.
Is she in there?
It says I'm connected
I
on
just
my
have a little bit.
Bluetooth, but I don't.
You might have to turn your Bluetooth off and on again on your phone. It should reconnect.
Hello.
Oh,
Check 1, 2.
one, two.
Can you hear anything?
Can you hear
Let me
anything?
try something. Yeah, I'm gonna
Hello, hello,
reboot
hello.
my power on.
Can't hear.
Okay. Okay. It's pairing.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Okay,
sometimes
perfect.
Bluetooth you have to reset that. So
Can you say something?
I can't hear her.
you can't hear her. Let
Can
me go
you
ahead
hear
and
her?
call
Can
you back.
hear her? I can't
No.
hear her.
She's
I'm gonna
not
put-
talking, so it's hard to hear her if she's not talking.
Hello?
There you are.
'Cause we can hear
You're not coming through
Okay,
my
so-
Bluetooth though.
We can hear in our earpieces.
Okay, the problem is it's not coming through her Bluetooth. It's coming through her phone.
Well, I can't fix her stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So she can hear us. It's just.
I can only hear
on
you
the
with the
phone,
phone.
on your iPhone. Can you actually turn Bluetooth off and then turn it back on?
Yeah, I just did. And it says
And
it's
then-
paired.
Okay. Okay, so then on the phone itself, I'll show you. Try that little thing that says speaker right there. That little, can you see that right there? Whoops. Wait, I got the other camera. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
I
See
got
that right
it.
there?
Yay.
You got it? All right.
We're just a blonde. I'm just a blonde. What do you?
Yeah, what can we do? What can we do?
Well, you
We're
two are-
therapists.
Blonde
We're not
leading the blonde.
techies.
You,
I know.
We're just techie. We're not techie.
you guys are pros.
The blonde
and-
leading the blind.
Yeah. Should we call you the talent?
We're the talent. Bless our hearts.
Okay, so I got the phone
Bless
over here,
my
so it's
heart.
disconnected. Here's what I'll do. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to introduce Shannon?
Yes. So I'll go ahead and we'll talk like this.
Okay.
How does that angle look, Jedediah? Does that angle look good when she's looking at me?
Yeah.
Like it looks at her?
Okay.
And again, I got you guys up here, so you know,
Perfect.
what the split screen looks like.
Right.
Okay.
That's the delay, so that fits for me.
So if I'm looking this way, does it look like I'm looking at Shannon?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I care
Yeah. So when I'm talking to you, you can just talk to me when you just imagine I'm Shannon.
about.
with
Okay.
Much worse hair.
Okay. You're
So,
right.
yeah. So anyway, so I'll go ahead and introduce Shannon real quick, but
Okay.
I'll go ahead and continue, and I'll try to give you a couple prompts,
Okay.
and then I'm going to kind of stay out of the way. If you guys want to have
Well,
a
no, I
conversation,
want you to ask questions to get us talking because she and I
Oh.
are not going to be able to carry the conversation.
Okay. Perfect.
That's what we need you for.
Okay, so I'm basically like the host.
Yeah, just like the questions I asked you about, well, what are you trying to get out of this? And what, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. Yeah, kind of stuff.
Okay,
So,
how did this start?
yeah.
Okay. And then, how about a little bit, what I might do is I might ask Shannon for a little bit more perspective in what she's seen as a
Yeah,
as
and
a
I want that
therapist.
as part of her
Okay.
introduction. And so just feel free to ask, just like you just did with me. You did a great job. Because I think if we have an equal amount of video of her,
Right.
then we'll have enough to.
We'll split. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Okay, are you ready?
I think so.
Shannon, are you ready?
Yeah, and is this just a run through? Because I could take my dog downstairs so he's not in the background. He's hiding under the pillow.
Oh, he is?
Oh, do you want to? Oh, that's fine.
Where's the little baby? I think it'll probably be fine.
Yeah, you may want to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good light right there where you had it right there.
Yeah.
That's fine. No.
Okay.
Back
Back
the
to
original,
where, without the
original.
window and.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a little
Okay.
bit more. Yeah, a little bit more. That's
Yeah,
perfect,
it's
that's
okay.
perfect.
People will just be like,
That's
oh, what a
perfect.
nice little dog rug back there.
Right. Exactly. It just
Okay.
shows you're human, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
Perfect.
He's my therapy dog anyway.
I know, right?
Oh, that's perfect. Okay. All right. Are we ready to record?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Hold on. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to restart the recording.
Outstanding. Okay. So I'm going to ask more. Should I talk about what were some of the questions you liked that I asked?
Well, I think just asking her about, her experiences, why this trauma survivors workshop kind of piqued her attention, what she's learned through her own personal walk and in helping people all these years, and what she's seen that people actually need, and why this might be a good fit for that.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll try not to draw it
Yeah.
too loud when you guys are.
But also feel free to be nuanced about it. I mean, if there's an opening in a direction that you want to go,
Okay.
it seems to fit, go for it.
I'll do that. Fantastic. All right, I'm excited. So maybe you and I should continue our discussion from last
Sure.
time, and then I'm going to go ahead and talk about Shannon. So that way
Okay,
I'll give
yeah,
her a
make
little
an
bit of chance to-
introduction. Okay.
Right, exactly. Okay. So a couple questions. I'll come up with a couple of questions, and then I'm just going to go ahead and kick it to it.
Okay.
All right. Are we recording?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're back. This is Charles Jeter. I'm here at the studio in Cortez, Colorado. And I'm talking with Rachel Marshall. And we were just speaking about being parents and looking at things like trauma. And I think that resonates with me as a parent. You look at children and you wonder if things, we have a saying, quote, that's going to leave a mark, right? And so what I think of, and let me give you a little personal history. My oldest son, when he was born, was 31 hours of labor, and he hot dialed me by accident about a week and a half ago, and he's 20 now, or almost 20. And he was explaining to a coworker that he had a mark on his forehead from when he was born. Well, I was there when that happened. I remember the forceps and things like that. But we always use that catchphrase of, ooh, that's going to leave a mark. So what I think of when we were talking about trauma, or we were talking about how the mind works and the plasticity, this is a lot like taking those blemishes out. Am I coming across the right way when I think of it that way?
Yes. So what happens when you do the deeper trauma work is it actually removes the emotional charge from the situation. So if you think of a battery and a positive and a negative charge, it actually, what it does is, say if something was charged to a 10, like your phone.
Oh, okay.
It's on all cylinders. It's totally raring to go. If we have triggers in our day-to-day life that cause an emotional reaction, we call that an emotional charge. So a lot of the deeper trauma work, what happens is we get in there as clinicians and we just kind of massage that little kink out and help people to not be so reactive and take out that emotional charge. So maybe it starts out as a 10. By the time we're done in our trauma work working with people, we get it down to maybe a 1 or a 2 or maybe a 3, make it more palatable so that you can go through your day-to-day life and every little thing that happens that reminds you of that original trauma doesn't continue to impact you and continue to cause you to re-experience the trauma. So this work is very, very important for overall functioning.
Wow, thank you. And you actually
Sure.
explained it. I kind of feel like a knuckle dragger in the room with you two.
That's okay.
So-
I mean, I would love to hear what Shannon thinks. I know we
Yes.
haven't introduced her yet, but that's kind of the crux. It's the linchpin of the work that we do as
That's-
therapists who work with trauma. It's a big deal.
That's
Yeah.
great, because I look at this and you say batteries and charges and things like that. That's right up my alley with electronics and my Navy background and knowing automotive work and things like that. So I think that
Sure.
that
Well, it can be so intimidating for people. So
Absolutely.
if we can just break it down into palatable bites of information that people can understand, it's just brain science. It's not, it's not that big of a deal, but people think of it as, something kind of nebulous and huge and unattainable, but it's really not when you break it down.
Well, it makes perfect
So-
sense, because if you're kind of removing memory effect. If we look at this in a geeky kind of a guy terms, memory effect on a battery or something like that means that it doesn't charge as much. My electric toothbrush, for example, has a memory effect, and I have to go buy a new one. So what we're looking at here is removing the memory effect, but you still have the memories. You just don't
Yes.
have the
It's
charge.
not a lobotomy, right?
Okay.
We're not just going in there and taking out random stuff, but it's more like, let's just make this palatable for
Gotcha.
people. Let's help these experiences to do what they were intended to do, which life experiences are intended to make us deeper, more connected human beings, but they're not meant to destabilize us and keep us stuck in patterns for years and unable to do just the activities of daily living. So it's a balance.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be crippling. It's supposed to be.
No,
It's supposed to be.
it's supposed to be a
enjoying.
catalyst to do some deeper work. That's what our experiences are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be life-altering in a sense that you can't function. So,
Wonderful. So we have Shannon Hicks, who's joined us remotely, and she is an LPC, which is a licensed
professional counselor.
See, I told you the knuckle dragging, right? So
it's okay.
and she practices in both Greenwood Village and Lone Tree, which is in
It's
the
kind of the same area,
right,
but yeah.
right in the Denver metro area on the south side.
Yes.
So kind of what used to be called Cherry Hills Village, Cherry Hills Village, what used to be called Cherry Hills Village, I think. And Shannon, I understand you have 15 years in practice, or you were licensed in 2007.
Yes, I've been licensed since 2007. However, you have to at least practice face-to-face counseling for 2 years before you get licensed. So with school training, internships before licensure, we're looking at almost 20 years of face-to-face therapy work.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
20
so
years.
us head shrinkers, we have a lot of training and accountability, and I use that term jokingly, but we have a lot of training and accountability before we're able to be let loose onto the public population. So there's a good, plug for licensure.
That makes sense. Yeah, they're screening you. You're not exactly an unlicensed
Oh
brain
yeah, they
surgeon,
make you
right?
go through hell and back to get your license. Yes. So.
Okay, so we were talking about the Trauma Survivors Workshop before you tuned in. And I understand both of you are very excited about this. And just to let you know, my interest is both as a veteran and somebody who is looking at focused care and increasing the quality of life on the western slope of Colorado. And so I wanted to go ahead and maybe ask a few things about your personal walk in therapy. We heard from Rachel, and she had mentioned that even though she was a therapist, that she actually, the catalyst for her to be looking at how to do this type of treatment was that she actually personally went and obtained a really good methodology of what helped her actually be that person that she is today. Could you give me any examples from your life, Shannon, where you decided that this was what you wanted to do, and then kind of segue into how you've seen this exciting new part of therapy?
Sure. I mean, there's a saying in therapy where you cannot take people where you've never been. And throughout my life, what got me interested and passionate about being a therapist is, well, one, I have a faith background in God, and so I really felt called into this type of work. But I've had my own trauma, and I think if you've lived long enough, I'm in my mid to upper 50s, and if you've lived long enough, you have a couple, bruises, throughout life. And I've had, unfortunately, some really traumatic events that caused me to go into therapy at the age of 18. And then I've had some trauma work done that I felt was very, very beneficial, like EMDR, hypnosis, talk therapy. And so it made me very passionate because of the healing that I received to get into the trauma work for myself as a professional. And it's just been so wonderful to see people walk through their own journey and healing, and to be right beside them and to help facilitate that work. And not only do I have my own experiences, but I have a son who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps and was deployed, and he had his own trauma. And then, of course, it has sparked an interest in me to work with veterans and people who have experienced that kind of trauma. And then about 6 years ago, I lost my oldest son, and that was a real traumatic event for me as well. And so I've been working on my own trauma, and it's also set me up again to take people where I've been in that grief journey. So, I've kind of got this passion to work with people who have love addiction, who have trauma from bereavement or, loss, abuse, all kinds of things, or just, being a veteran of war.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love the way you actually looked at that, and you segment out the different types of, I call them audiences, but we also could use the term cohort for a technical term, or population group, that kind of a thing. And of course, I don't think I mentioned this before, but Rachel, your father was in the Navy, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so we obviously have a strong focus on the veteran community. And,
Sure.
And growing up in a small town, you understand a lot of things that go on in small towns. And then also we're looking at Shannon bringing a really good cross-section from the Metro Denver type of I guess I'd say hustle and bustle, but it's kind of the cutting edge of things as well.
Sure.
So those segments that we talked about, we've talked about the male-centric ones a little bit more, but I understand that there's a focus that both of you have been talking about recently, where we're looking at specifics into the people in it. I call it the impact, or the frag pattern. I guess you probably call it that. If veterans understand what a frag pattern is, a bomb goes off and fragments go everywhere, and you're in that certain, I guess, radius around it where you could catch shrapnel. And we were talking about people who deal with narcissistic personality disorder, not just the person who's narcissistic, but actually people in the frag pattern. And I didn't know this, but that's actually a type of trauma that can actually be dealt with the Survivors Workshop. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correct?
As far as being a narcissist, or as far as being the victim of a narcissistic relationship?
Yes, that
Okay,
part. The frag pattern.
So I think,
not the...
so when Shannon and I conceptualized the group, and I know I've already spoken to you about how our approach is going to be, each time we start a survivors group, it's going to have a specific clinical focus. And so when we started talking about the needs that we see arising out there in our day-to-day practice with people, one of the big things that came to light as we were speaking was the need for, especially women who maybe grew up and had a family origin that wasn't exactly supportive, or some early childhood trauma. For whatever reason, they showed up into adulthood and continued to see that they were victimized by attracting narcissistic men into their lives. And one of our goals with the Survivors Workshop is to help those people, help them shed some light on why are they making the choices that they're making, how do we get out of this hamster wheel, why do we continue to be attracted to the same personality type that ends up being very abusive, how to deal with gaslighting behaviors, how to deal with learning boundaries, sticking up for oneself, so to speak, in relationships, getting out of the intensity of those abuse situations that can unfortunately cause women to get caught up in an emotional pattern that just doesn't serve them. And so our goal is to try to empower these women, help them to sit with themselves in an environment that is peaceful, to really go deep within and to figure out, why am I doing these things? Why am I making these choices? And what is another option for me? how can I live my life in a different way that's really going to honor the person that I've become, not where I've come from. So, and hopefully Shannon can share a little bit more. She did a wonderful
I
job.
was just going to mention.
I know. So hopefully, Shannon, you can share a little bit as well, just about what you see.
Well, you said it so well. To try to piggyback off of you, as a therapist, I work with attachment styles. And when a client comes in and has been in a toxic relationship, usually with someone who is narcissistic or has high narcissistic traits. And so what I do is I try to go back into their childhood to figure out, what attachment style did they have to their primary caregivers, like their parents, and what's lacking, because usually what's lacking or what we need as a child, we go into our adulthood and we pick people to give us what we lacked in as a child. And that
in the
usually
clinical world, we call that incompletion. So we try to go back. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we have these incompletions, and as adults, we try to fix those incompletions.
She's explaining it for the knuckle draggers watching this.
And really, we cannot heal. I mean, clients cannot heal until they start to understand and gain that self-awareness. So once we help them gain self-awareness, then we can go deeper into the trauma work. And that's where real healing begins. Is figuring out, why did I make these choices and how do I stop it?
Yeah.
So to piggyback on that, if I understand correctly, and attachment styles is something new I just learned today, so I write down new terms. But what I'm looking at is that you're a person with roughly 15 to 20 years of experience in the field, and you have an existing therapy in place to deal with attachment styles. And this seems to be an obvious reason why the two of you actually connected, and what you're looking at is you're looking at actually accelerating things like what she's looking at doing. So this is a kind of a good concept of a therapist and therapist. This is how you guys grow in the therapy pool. Okay. Shannon, can you tell me a little bit more about what really kind of hooked you on these processes that you're looking at launching in the Trauma Survivors Workshop?
So what got my interest? Is that what you're asking? Well, what's got my, it's
what got your interest when you guys connected?
Okay, so we connected just as colleagues but friends, and as we started talking and getting to know each other, we both had similar personal walks with people who had brought a lot of toxicity into our lives, and just our pain and our healing journey. And as we found that we had a lot of similar healing and hurt, we decided, hey, you know what? Let's take our training, let's take our friendship, let's combine it, and let's go out there and heal the people like we've been healed. Let's pass it on. Let's move it forward. Let's help these women like we've been helped. And that's what gave me the passion. And I think that's where Rachel gets her passion, is because when you've gone through your own healing, you can't help but want to help somebody else heal. I mean, that's the whole basis. That's the whole basis of
100%.
Why we love what we do.
Exactly. It oozes out of you. You can't just experience a life change like this and not want everybody to know about it, right? Because if you learn a new way to live and be, and it's a happier way to live and be, why not want everybody to have it? Why would we not want to share it with everybody? And so, to me, I think Shannon and I both agree, this is life-changing and it is motivating. Why keep it to ourselves? And can we do it? Can we deliver it in a way that doesn't disrupt people's lives, but that they can get what they need, and then they can go on to live happy, functional, well-adjusted lives where they can engage with people, have secure relationships, form secure attachments, maybe for the first time in their lives, right? Some of these people, that might be the only thing we really help them accomplish, is how do you form a secure attachment? But for some people who were baked in this stuff, it could be life-changing for them. So our goal is to meet people exactly where they're at, not judge, but help them to get where they want to be, and help them to have the vision and foresight and say, okay, this is where you see yourself, this is where you are, how can we fill in the gaps to help you get there, and how can we do it in a way that's effective and that is very conscientious of their time and their money. So
I think that's a wonderful
Well,
focus, and that makes a lot
yeah.
of sense. We talked about the CXO positions earlier.
yeah. So, and Shannon, were you going to say something?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to something, and I bet Rachel, you probably could agree. I mean, as a person who's done their own work in therapy, going every week, every other week, versus, what it feels like to go on a retreat, right? Where you're just sitting there for hours and you're getting this intense work, and you're basically putting in a year to 2 years of therapy into this one weekend, because you're taking time out of your life, your busy life, and you're doing a self-care, like flushing
dive.
out and deep dive, intensive dive. You're taking that time, you're not distracted, you're just working on you for that weekend. And you're getting more of, you have the time to break down and get vulnerable with yourself, to get real with yourself. Whereas a lot of time I see in therapy, just when that raw, vulnerable moment comes up, oh man, I'm looking at the time and I'm getting ready to wind down and send them on their way. Well, when we have 3 days to really work, we're working. And so you walk out of there with some healing.
With that.
Yeah.
No,
you get it. So yeah, it might be costly, it might be some time consuming, but it'll be the best gift you ever give yourself ever.
Exactly. And I love that. And I want to piggyback on that, because that is exactly what we are offering. We are offering an experience where you can't run and you can't hide. Hopefully you don't want to. But what I always tell people is, as humans, our nature is to walk 5 miles out of our way to avoid pain of any kind.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yes. So this is a very good opportunity for people like myself who avoided doing my work for years, even as a therapist, even with my own therapist. My therapist told me 7 years before I did this work, Rachel, you really need to do this work. And I said, when I'm ready, I will do it. Okay. But I understand the trepidation, so I had to sign up for something like this so that I would go and do it, and my feet would be held to the fire, and I wouldn't be able to run from myself anymore. And I'm so grateful. It was the most life-changing experience I ever had, and all I can tell people now, and this is what I tell people in my private practice, is I wish I would have done this 20 years ago. So, and I avoided, right? So this is also another opportunity. If you know you need to do something like this, but you are scared, this is the perfect opportunity, because we are going to love you through it. You'll be in a safe environment. You'll be away from all of the other stuff that distracts you, and it will help you to really allow it to pass through you versus avoidance. Okay, so that's the key of healing. You have to allow things to pass through you.
Okay. So I was actually going to say that this sounds more, instead of a trauma survivors workshop, it sounds more like a trauma survivors boot camp.
Kind of, yeah. In a way, I mean, it's life-changing. It will change the way you see yourself and the world around you forever. There's no going back after this, but it's all positive.
So Shannon, let me kick it to you real quick and ask you the question about the follow-up care. Because we spoke, I don't believe you joined us in the session yet, but we spoke about there being a partnership with other therapists when somebody's continuing their journey after a session like this, and they've received real change, to keep that going forward. Can you speak a little bit about how you envision the longer term effects of what you and Rachel are looking at with the Trauma Survivors Workshop? And how
Yes, I think I think it's very beneficial to continue therapy after this retreat. It's, healing is a journey, and a lifelong journey. I mean, I personally have been in therapy again since I was 18, and I'm almost 57. So I would encourage people to continue to do their work. So we both are able to continue on with you guys virtually. If someone comes from the Denver metro area, of course, I'm here. And then Rachel and I have so many colleagues in the area that we can help get you situated with a really great trauma-informed therapist.
Yes, and with your permission, we are happy to, after the Trauma Survivors Workshop, continue to be in collaboration and communication with whomever your home therapist is, and that way we can make sure that you can continue to work through the tougher moments, and especially as, you know, we're going to have a little bit of a background and an experience with you, and so we're happy to bring that to you in your home community once you've discharged from this workshop. So we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of as much as we can. So.
That sounds like a great holistic picture of everything. Shannon, I'd like to take a break in a minute, but I want to go ahead and give you a chance to add anything that we might have missed before we go on a break.
Oh, wow, Rachel, do you feel like there's anything more that we need to say? I just feel like this is such an exciting thing for someone who is a busy professional, who really is just tired of the toxicity in their lives. People who really even want to learn how they are toxic, and how they can change their behaviors, their patterns of attachment, so that they're picking healthier people. You got to become a healthy whole person before you go attract a healthy whole person, right?
Exactly.
So not only are we going to be dealing about, you know, being in relationships with these kind of people, but we're going to be healing from the inside out.
And I like what you're saying about inside out, because this work is an inside job. And no matter what anybody tells you out there, no matter what self-help guru gets into your ear, no matter what podcast you watch, no matter what you try to do to feed yourself, all of those things are good. But we're talking about really dialing it back, getting down to the basics, and in a way exacting and taking maybe a scalpel if you think of yourself as a surgeon, you know, really getting in there and cutting into the heart of the matter, which is not something that you can do without a skilled set of hands. So we're talking about taking it a step deeper and really breathing life back into somebody who's been through a difficult time and giving them hope. Okay, so this is going to be the most life-changing experience you've ever had. Okay, and at least that's our goal. We can't guarantee that for everybody, but based on our skill set and our passion and what we know we're going to bring to this workshop, it will be life-changing for certain.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing I would like to add.
And I can envision the,
sorry. Just one thing I wanted to kind of add to that too is just in my own personal journey, you know, I've learned that I tend to attract that narcissistic personality. And I think what we've learned as therapists is that there are people that narcissists are attracted to, people who are generous, people who really are kind of codependent, who are successful women, just, you know, good-hearted, empathetic people. And so I'm always
invest, right? We overinvest in our loved ones.
Right. And so what I've learned is I'm always going to attract these kind of people, but doing the inner work and feeling more whole and not feeling like I'm looking for somebody to give me something that I'm missing has helped me spot that person. So before I invest emotionally in them, I'm always going to attract them. But now I see them coming a mile away versus when I was wounded, I bought into the illusion that they would build for me.
Exactly.
And now I don't need the illusion anymore. And that's the magic. That's what I'm hoping that, you know, and I'm sure Rachel, you're hoping for too, is that whatever woman decides to sign up for this retreat, she's going to know that when she walks out of all this intensive work, that she's going to say, you know what, I've got some tools now. I've got some healing now. And now I'm not going to go and attract these kind of people anymore.
Yes.
I'll see them coming. Yeah.
No, you see them coming and you learn to avoid engaging in relationships with those people. So yeah, I was just going to say I completely agree with you. And the thing that you said about attracting the same kinds of people, a lot of us, we see our patterns, we just don't know how to change them. So the inner work that we will do together with you as we walk this road with you is we will help you address those early childhood wounds, nurture them, nurture that little girl that didn't get it, and then retrain you how to be okay on your own. Okay, and that's key. I think what you said is so true. Is it's a core self issue, right? And a lot of us have fractured core selves, unfortunately. But it's not rocket science to actually go through and make some changes and reestablish a foundation for yourself. And so, because we've walked this walk, we can help you get there. So it's going to be a very exciting experience for you either way, but hopefully you'll be able to change patterns that have been around for a long time that you just want to be rid of. So.
Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and take that break, and then we'll go ahead and come back and do a bit of a wrap up and a round table.
Okay.
And just catch a few things that we may have wanted to put some more focus on.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good
So-
job, Shannon.
I'm going to put you on speaker.
Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna,
Are we
go
good?
ahead.
Okay. Are we?
I don't
Do you
know if
think
there's
that
anything
people
else
are-
we really need.
I think
Go ahead.
you guys
Yeah.
nailed it.
Well, yeah, but I don't. This has been like a long one. So, do you think people will really listen for more than 30 minutes to this?
No, we're not gonna.
We're gonna slice it.
We are slicing it. We're just taking the best pieces of everything we're doing. We're just right now kind of vomiting up
Yeah, we're
everything that we
slicing it.
might want to use.
Okay.
So these
So
are
no,
the-
it's what I've been told out of the people that I've talked to that do these kinds of videos, that you don't want it to be more than like 10 minutes, basically.
Oh, or less.
Right.
People.
Yeah, exactly. Like 10 minutes.
3
at the most,
minutes,
and that's
maybe.
if you're covering
Yeah.
some major stuff. So no, this is.
Yeah. People
Right.
just want the punch line
Well,
really
I
quick.
looked at it.
They do. So yeah, so let's keep it short.
Right. What I looked at was this is the raw video session, and that's why we got a professional. We get good quality, and we can use this. We can really identify the specific segments to market towards, and as we take that, yes, we have the whole session, and we could actually do a raw cut of that entire thing, and it would make sense for somebody who wanted to know more in depth. But the reason we're a little bit more repetitive on this is because we want to make sure that as we identify different market segments, we can repurpose this video in the future.
Yeah.
And so I actually was going to say you guys
I don't
did such
think
a
we
great
need
job.
anything more. I mean, I think
No.
that we got plenty of. I don't think we need to do another segment.
Yeah, I just want to do a close, and the round table would just be like 2 or 3 questions about what makes you special. How do you see this as a? I think you probably said it right. You said, if I would have known about this 20 years ago, I would have done it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so I wanted to speak towards, I think what we're identifying as a market segment of a female CXO of a company who's having problems in her personal life, but she's doing great on the track of whatever, and she has the time to take a ski weekend, right? And so she can go to Telluride or Winter Park or wherever else. That's a cover for action, what we call in the military world. And so she can get her own work done quietly, where even her executive assistant doesn't know about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she can get all that stuff taken care of, come back and deal with a therapist still privately, and
But
actually
most of
be
the
more-
major work's already been done.
Most
It's
of the
more
ma-
follow up. It's more
exactly.
just, establishing boundaries and.
Right, exactly.
I think
And
so,
so
yeah.
that's a really good market segment. Both of you, I just wanted to mention that seemed like a really good market segment. And the things that you said, we can actually take that and encapsulate that as a specific targeted approach. And just to let you know, I have a way I look at sales marketing material: feature, advantage, benefit. And both of you are natural at talking about the feature, talking about how that applies to you personally, building rapport, the advantage of that feature, and then what the benefit of that feature is. So
Yeah.
I think that's really great. And so that's already natural in there. I don't have to ask a lot of questions about it. But we do have Jedediah here for another 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Jedediah.
So maybe
I
I
keep saying
wonder.
that, and
I
now I'm
wonder
going to
if
say in
we-
Jeremiah.
No, you're gonna say Jeremiah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. What, honey?
I wonder if it would be beneficial for you, Charles, to ask us why would I want to sign up? If I'm not a therapist and I'm just listening and I'm looking for help, why would I want to sign up? Because like my answer would be, here I am, I'm in my mid 50s, I'm sick and tired of these bad relationships. I would like to find the love of my life, but I want a good, solid, healthy relationship to see me through. And I am a busy professional. I tend to get very distracted, and I need a place where I can go and just take time to listen and sit with myself and to learn and to heal. Otherwise, I just get addicted to busyness. And in most women who are successful tend to be very, very busy and very, very distracted.
Yes.
So they put the self-work away off the shelf while they continue to attract these unhealthy, toxic relationships.
Yeah, can we get that on film?
Yeah,
Because
can we
I
just
want
take what
you.
you just said?
I want
We don't
you to
have ask
answer
a
that.
second time.
You just
That
gotta
guy.
you just gotta get to, you know
Yeah,
what,
we're
people,
Recording?
this is,
Oh,
okay.
he just recorded that, so you don't have to re-say it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
okay. So here's another thing that I think we need to say too is
Okay. Say it.
change really only occurs when you're sick and tired of your life being the same.
Yes.
So if you are sick and tired of these terrible toxic relationships and they're wearing you out, it's time to make a change. Take the step. Go take care of yourself. Invest in yourself, because when you invest in you and you heal, then you're done with the toxic relationships in your life.
Exactly. And
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, it's almost like you can't afford to not do this.
Right.
If you are a busy professional woman and you want fulfilling relationships in your life and you are at a dead end, there is absolutely nowhere else you should be except at this workshop, because it will affect change like nothing else. Okay? And then you can move on with your life and you can have those great relationships. There is hope. You do not have to live like this anymore. And that's what we have to offer. We're offering you an olive branch. We're offering you a way to set the stage for awesome things to happen in your life and to give you hope. Somebody told me once, there's a book out there, I can't quote the author, but they use the word hope, and the word hope stands for hold on, pain ends. And I worked with a patient who had that tattooed into her arm because at one point in her life, before she did all of the work that she did with me, that was the thing that got her through, was this little tattoo that said hope. Okay? And those 4 words, hold on, pain ends, that is what we want to bring to anybody who's willing to take the challenge. So
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
I love that.
I don't even know what to say, guys. This is really good.
I love that.
I think you answered. Yeah, I think this is why I would want to sign up.
I mean,
You know?
doesn't
Yeah,
that make
well,
you
I
wanna
can
do
tell
it?
you one thing. Yeah, well, one thing I will tell people is like say if I'll just use my age. You know, I'm 56, and so I will say to a client who's 56, so how do you want to be 60? You're going to be 60. How do you want to be 60? You know,
love
for
that.
me, I'm a golfer, so I'll do a golf analogy. Like, I'm on the back 9 of my life, and I will be damned if I'm going to spend the rest of my life that I have left in a toxic, unhealthy relationship with myself or others. So how do I
true.
want to
And
be
I love
60?
that analogy, being on the back 9 of your life, because that is true. A lot of us at this point, a lot of the people that we're reaching and talking to, the first half of their life is done. And so then the question becomes, how do you want to arrive? How do you want to be in the second half of your life? That's a very good point.
Yeah,
back
I
9.
want to thrive. I want to thrive, not survive it.
Exactly. Cool. Well, I think it's a wrap.
I know. I can't.
I
Think
don't
of
think there's anything
else
else we can do. Okay, cool. Yay. Well, thank you,
All right,
Shannon.
yay.
And
All right,
I'll
well,
be in
you
touch.
just
But
let
yeah,
me
we're
know.
going to whittle this down, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised because most of it's going to go.
I know.
Yeah, we're just going to keep on. We're going to keep on using it and defining the markets. And so as we're doing that, we'll probably release, somewhere between a 90-second and a 3-minute bite of some of these things. And the best part is
Okay.
that the repetitiveness that we had in it actually helps us build different segments. And so we can kind of build a library of that and drop those in. And I think there's really a good launching point for, actually, we could probably build the marketing material off of this session we just did.
I think so, and I did want to
Yeah.
tell you that my other goal, like I said, I'm not leaving the state of Colorado until everything is off my checklist, and Charles knows that.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to be doing in the next couple of days is getting with Pagosa Springs and solidifying the budget so that we know what we're dealing with as far as, we have the idea of what we want to charge for tuition, but then kind of what each of our cut would be and where, we want to add room and board into the retreat experience, some of those things. So I'll have some initial numbers for us. So I'm actually
Okay.
getting excited. So
I am getting excited too.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
you
I
just
will
let
be
me
in
know.
touch.
Have we set a date yet? Are we still going to do the end of September?
yeah, so that's one of the things when I talked to the Pagosa Springs Resort, I'm going to just give them those 2 dates and see if there's a date that works better for them. But I'm thinking the October date might be better. As soon as you get into November, people get a little squirrely about finances, and I don't want anything to keep people from coming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get that.
but if we have to do the early November date, that's fine. I wrote down all the dates we discussed, so I'll keep you posted.
Okay,
Cool. Well,
Sounds
thank you for your
good.
time.
All right.
I'll be in touch.
thanks.
Okay,
Okay,
bye.
bye.
Okay.
There we go. Raw. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, no
Okay.
problem. She